Hey guys, in today's video, we're gonna talk about body rotation, but not how to do it in the downswing this time, but the things you need to check for in your setup and during the backswing. Things you're doing in your setup and backswing that are not allowing you to rotate during your downswing and how to fix them. All right guys, so another video here on rotation, but not downswing rotation this time. I want to talk about what you do during your setup and backswing that prevents you from rotating. A lot of you guys watching this, and girls, are going to try and rotate during your downswing and not be able to. Now, some of you, again, physically just aren't going to get a million degrees open. Me neither, probably. But there are some things you can do in your setup and backswing to help downswing rotation. And there's some things you definitely can't do at your setup and backswing that are just going to halt all rotation. Let's first talk a concept of equal and opposite. Essentially in your golf swing, whatever you do, whatever movement you do, there's going to be kind of an equal and opposite, okay? Not scientifically proven across the board, but that's basically what we're working with here. Let's say weight in your feet, for example, or pressure in my feet. If I were to get a lot of weight on my toes at any point in the swing, my body is going to counterbalance that by moving my weight towards my heels at any point. If my weight's too far towards my heels, ever, my body's going to counterbalance it by coming towards my toes, okay? Let's use that as our main theory here. Now, in terms of body rotation during the downswing, if you watch really good players and they rotate the most, there's certainly a correlation between the weight in the feet going towards their heels and that making it easier to rotate more. And then the opposite is true. The more the weight goes towards the toes in the downswing, the less they would rotate. I'm gonna say that one more time. Weight towards the heels of the body would be easier to rotate. Weight towards the toes would be harder to rotate. So I just gave you two pieces of information here. Number one, your body's gonna always counterbalance wherever you initially put the weight with the opposite of that. And number two, the more you move your weight towards your heels, left heel specifically, during the downswing, the easier it will be to rotate. Now, if I put those together, what would I do with that? Well, if I want to go towards my heels during my downswing, towards my heels, where would I want my weight to start at address and go during my backswing? If it goes opposite of where I put it, what's the opposite of heels? Toes, I'm thinking everyone's saying at this point. So if I set up with my weight more towards the balls of my feet, let's say just forward of my shoelaces, not all the way on my toes, my heels are off, but for some of you, not the worst idea. Weight more forward towards my toes, and I keep it in the middle or towards my toes. If I'm on my toes at the top of my backswing, which way am I gonna go during my downswing? Heels. I'll be able to rotate more. So at a setup, at address, let's go over this first. If I want to make it the easiest for my body to rotate during the downswing, I would most certainly have my weight a little more towards my toes, and I'd have my butt more forward. Equal and opposite. Someone who rotates really good has their butt like what? It moves back and away. I see countless swing videos every day from some of you guys where you're trying to get your butt to go back, hit a wall, hit a chair. Yeah, if your butt's gonna go back, it'll be easier to rotate. What's the opposite of your butt back? Butt forward. So if I want to preset these things at address, more weight forward, more butt forward. Give credit where credit's due. George Gankis was the first person I really heard talk about a lot of this stuff, and it's beautiful because it's spot on. And a lot of his guys he has set up forward, and then you watch their rotation, it works good. Watch Tour Stars. Now, weight more forward on the toes, butt more underneath would make it the easiest to go the opposite. Weight more on my heels, butt more back, it'll be easier to rotate. That's part one. What you absolutely do not want to do and can't do is if you get your weight back on your heels like I do at address, it's gonna go towards your toes during the downswing. And then you're gonna early extend and not rotate a lot. You're gonna not be able to rotate no matter what you do because you're moving forward. That's the whole point. If you're watching this and you're like, man, I'm really trying to rotate, I'm doing these drills and not working, it's because you're doing something earlier in your setup or backswing that's not allowing it. You with me? If you physically can do it, it's because you're doing something earlier that's holding you back. Weight on the toes, butt underneath me, that would be ideal. Weight on the heels, butt back is death in terms of rotation. If you set up like this, weight back, butt back, you're most likely in trouble. So that's part number one. The checkpoints that I like that George uses are back of the armpits in a straight line down, should run over the kneecaps and the balls of the feet. I saw him do that for the first time as well, and that's a beautiful checkpoint. Back of the armpits, kneecaps, balls of the feet, get your weight forward, keep your butt tucked under. If your butt's way back, pointed behind your heel line, not so good. You're gonna come forward during the downswing. That's the setup. Top of backswing, same thing applies. I see some of you guys at the top getting really deep into this right hip. So the hip's way back, the weight's really far back on the heels. Now, have I seen some good athletes from there, really deep, work it into their left heel and stay back and rotate? Sure, you can do that. But for some people, if you get really deep in your right foot at the top into the heel, butt really far back, again, what are the opposites of that? My weight's in the heel, it's gonna go the opposite. What's the opposite of heel? Toe. My butt's really far back. What's the opposite of back? Forward. If my weight goes towards my toe and forward, I'm moving this way, not rotating, can't rotate as much. Those are the two main ones I see. And the other third part I want to talk about is your left foot and your left heel. During the downswing, it's imperative that you get to your left heel to rotate more. If you're working towards your left toe too much, like this, you can't get your pelvis out of the way fast enough to rotate enough. You want to work from the top into the middle part of your left foot and then into the heel. You really want to work towards the heel. Equal and opposite. If I make a backswing and I wanted to work into my heel the most, I would get off of my darn heel on the way back. Now, for some of you, that'll mean picking your heel off the ground. For some of you, that'll just mean getting the pressure more towards your toes. If you make a backswing and you get the weight more towards the toes of your left foot, get completely off of the heel, then again, what's the opposite of that? I'm gonna move back into my heel. So when you make a backswing, if you want to preset all these things, weight towards your toes, balls of the feet, butt underneath you, okay? On the way back, get the weight off of the left heel, feel like it's into the balls of the left toes. Don't go too far deep with this right butt. Keep it in a little bit. Stay in your right middle of your right foot, and then try and rotate from there. Especially those of you who feel like if you feel like you've tried everything with rotation and you still can't get it, look at these parts. Weight more forward, butt more under at address. In the backswing, get your weight more towards your left toes. Stay more in the middle of your right hip here and your right foot, not as far deep. Now from here, sit back into that left heel and let your right side turn through. That's gonna work a lot better. So again, mostly for the people who've been trying to rotate and can't, look at those pieces first. It's all action, reaction, cause and effect. Those are the setup pieces and backswing pieces that are gonna allow you to rotate the most. If you do the opposite, it's gonna be very difficult for you to achieve that. I hope that all makes sense. Leave us a comment below if you have any questions.